Hi, my name is Ria, and on my 33rd birthday, I sat alone at a table meant for 6. I had arrived early, 15 minutes, to be exact, because I still believed, foolishly, that being punctual meant being valued. The sun was sinking behind the Denver skyline, washing the street in amber light. I wore a long-sleeved dress that wasn't expensive, but chosen carefully, and heels I already regretted. This dinner mattered to me. It was my birthday. I wanted it to feel real. The hostess smiled as she checked her list. Party of 6. Yes, I said. Ria. I booked it last week. She led me to a table near the window. 6 chairs. 6 polished place settings. A candle flickering gently in the center, like it was waiting too. I sat facing the entrance. The waiter approached. Would you like to order now, or, I'll wait, I said too fast. He nodded and walked away. I checked my phone. 6:47 p.m. Nothing. I told myself not to overthink it. Lena was always late. Jason had no sense of time. And Margaret, my mother, never arrived early unless the attention was on her. I adjusted my fork. Then adjusted it again. I'd chosen this restaurant because it was quiet and familiar. Not flashy. Not cheap. A place that said, you're worth planning for. My phone buzzed. My heart lifted for half a second, then sank. A message from my mother. You're not our priority right now. Enjoy your dinner. That was it. No happy birthday. No apology. No explanation. Just 13 words that landed heavier than silence. This wasn't forgetfulness. This was a decision. The waiter returned, holding a small wrapped box. Someone dropped this off earlier, he said. Said it was from your family. I smiled the way you smile at strangers when you don't want them asking questions. The wrapping was neat, matte gold, minimalist. Very Lena. Inside was a pale blue silk scarf. My stomach dropped. I had bought this exact scarf for my mother last Christmas. I recognized the stitching. The brand. Even the tiny snag near the edge where she'd caught it on her ring. The card read, Happy birthday from all of us. Underneath, faint but visible, was my own handwriting. Love you always, Mom. They hadn't even bothered to use a new card. They just wrote over the old one, like memories could be erased that easily. I placed the scarf back in the box. I didn't cry. I lifted my wine glass and took a slow sip while laughter floated from another table nearby. A couple was celebrating something. Glasses clinked. The world kept moving. I stayed seated, watching the streetlights blink on one by one, until the candle burned low. Then I pulled a sticky note from my purse. 5 words. That was all I needed. I left cash under the plate, more than enough, and walked out quietly. I didn't look back. On the table, beside the untouched bread and the recycled gift box, sat the note, Thank you. No more seats. That night, back in my apartment, I didn't turn on the lights. The city glow was enough. My phone buzzed again. Instagram. A post from Lena. And that was the moment everything changed. I didn't want to open the app. Something in my chest tightened the moment I saw Lena's name at the top of my notifications. My thumb hovered over the screen, frozen between curiosity and self-respect. I knew better. I always knew better. And still, I tapped. The photo loaded slowly, one cruel pixel at a time. There they were. Margaret. Lena. Jason. Uncle Victor. All of them standing outside Marina's restaurant in Boulder, the same place Jason used to say was too expensive whenever I suggested it. Champagne glasses raised. Faces glowing. Smiles wide and effortless, like this was exactly where they were meant to be. Jason stood front and center, arms stretched out like he'd just won something. In his hand was a set of keys. Motorcycle keys. The caption read, "Celebrating the dreamer." He finally made it happen. My stomach turned. I zoomed in before I could stop myself. Margaret was wearing the scarf. The pale blue silk scarf they had handed me earlier that night like a leftover thought. And on Jason's wrist, I blinked. Then blinked again. The watch. The same sleek black watch he'd sent me a photo of 2 months ago, asking, "Is this too much?" I had told him not to buy it. He'd laughed and said, "Relax, I can't afford that anyway." And yet, there it was. Shining. Brand new. I set the phone down slowly, like it might explode if I moved too fast. For a moment, I just stared at the dark reflection of my own face on the screen. I didn't recognize her. She looked calm. Too calm. Like someone watching their own life from behind glass. Then I picked the phone back up and opened my banking app. I already knew what I was going to see. Last Tuesday. $1,500 wired to Jason. My chest didn't tighten. My hands didn't shake. I remembered the call. "They are threatening to kick me out, Rhea," he'd said, voice cracking just enough to sound real. "I don't know what to do. I'm scared." He wasn't scared. He was shopping. I let the phone slide from my hand onto the couch. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't bad timing. This was a pattern. They hadn't just skipped my birthday. They had funded the celebration with my kindness and toasted my absence like it didn't matter. I stood up and walked to the small dining table near my window. My laptop was already open from earlier that morning, still showing the reservation confirmation for a table meant for people who never planned to come. I stared at the screen for a long second. Then I opened a new document. Title, Support, Unreciprocated. The cursor blinked patiently, like it had been waiting for this moment. I started typing. Car loan relief, $2,800 mortgage bridge payments, $5,200 emergency dental bill for Lena's son, $600 Jason's, rent emergency, $1,500. Then I paused. I added one more line. Motorcycle celebration, unknowingly funded by me, $1,200. No receipts. No thank yous. No invitations. I copied the Instagram photo and pasted it beside the last line. Seeing it there, frozen, undeniable, did something to me. Not anger. Not sadness. Clarity. My phone buzzed again. A voicemail, forwarded, from Margaret. I didn't listen. I let the notification sit there while I stared out the window at the slow crawl of headlights below. Somewhere, people were choosing each other. Somewhere, families were showing up without conditions. Mine had chosen this instead. I whispered to the empty room, "This is what they chose." The words didn't echo. They settled. That night, sleep didn't come easily, but when it did, it wasn't restless. It was heavy, dreamless, like my body finally understood that something old had ended. The morning light woke me gently. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my suitcase still leaning against the wall, half packed from the weekend trip I'd cancelled to help Margaret fix a leaking pipe. I tried calling Jason first, she'd said. But you know how boys are. I'd missed a weekend with people who actually wanted me there. And I'd said, "It's okay, Mom. I'll come." It was never okay. At the kitchen table, I opened my laptop again. New tab. New title. Emotional overdrafts. This time, I didn't list money. I listed moments. Cancelled New Mexico trip, Jason's car broke down. Thanksgiving catering, paid, never reimbursed. Lena's baby shower decor, last-minute ask, thanked publicly on Facebook only. Margaret's temporary expenses, permanent silence. No emotion. Just facts. That was the difference between sadness and clarity. Sadness curls you inward. Clarity sits you upright and asks for proof. And for the first time in my life, I had plenty of it.by the third morning after my birthday, the shock had worn off. What remained was something sharper. Quieter. The kind of clarity that doesn't shout, it whispers, and once you hear it, you can't unhear it. Monday arrived wrapped in a grey Denver sky. I brewed coffee more out of habit than need and answered a few work emails with practiced efficiency. Life, apparently, expected me to keep going. After closing my inbox, I opened the mortgage account Margaret and I had shared since my father passed. I wasn't looking for trouble. I just wanted to confirm that the last payment I'd made had cleared. That's how it always started, with something small. As I scrolled, a document I didn't recognize caught my attention. Attached to the property profile. Recently uploaded. Revised ownership agreement. My chest tightened. I clicked. The PDF opened slowly, and then everything inside me went very still. My name was gone. Where Rhea Morgan had been listed as co-owner for 3 years, there was now empty space. Replaced by 2 names. Margaret Morgan. Jason Morgan. No footnote. No explanation. No signature line for me. Just a clean, silent erasure. I scrolled back up, then down again, like my name might reappear if I looked hard enough. It didn't. The filing date read, 4 weeks ago. 4 weeks. I picked up my phone and called the county clerk's office. After hold music and 2 transfers, a woman with a tired but steady voice answered. Yes, she said after I gave her the file number. The revision was submitted in person. Paperwork processed and notarized. I swallowed. Was there a signature from me on file? A pause. Let me check. The silence stretched until my fingers went numb. Yes, she said finally. There is a signature. Rhea M. Morgan. Looks clean. No ID attached, though. Just the signature page. That's not mine, I said, my voice flat. I never signed that. Her tone shifted. In that case, I'd recommend contacting a property attorney. If you believe fraud was involved. Fraud. I thanked her and ended the call. I sat there for a long time, staring at the wall across from me, trying to breathe like a normal person. My own mother's hand, likely holding the pen. My brother standing beside her. Signing me out of something I had paid into and believed I belonged to. Not just forgotten. Deleted. My eyes drifted to a folder on my desktop labeled Community Projects. I opened it. Inside was a flyer from last year's senior community fundraiser, the one I had anonymously funded when the city cut their budget mid-year. I remembered sitting at this same table, wiring the money quietly, asking only that my name not be mentioned. At the event, Margaret had shown up in pearls and a pastel suit. She'd given a speech so emotional it left 2 board members in tears. She accepted a plaque on behalf of the Morgan family legacy. The newsletter the following month called her the beating heart of the Morgan family. My name wasn't anywhere. Not even in the fine print. I dragged the revised deed into the same folder and renamed it, Not Forgotten. Just ignored. Then I added screenshots. The newsletter. The event photo. Margaret smiling beside the mayor like she'd built the world herself. A pattern. That's what it was. My phone buzzed. A message from Hannah. Hey, I just wanted to give you a heads up. My aunt ran into your mom yesterday. Margaret told people you're exaggerating things. Making drama. Said you've always been a bit much. I set the phone down slowly. So now I wasn't just erased. I was rewritten. I thought about every gathering I'd attended out of guilt. Every birthday, where I'd taken photos instead of being in them. Every holiday gift sent quietly, expecting nothing back, and getting exactly that. I scrolled through my camera roll and stopped on a photo from 2 years ago. Holiday dinner. Everyone was smiling. Margaret holding a wine glass. Lena in a red satin dress. Jason already spilling gravy on his shirt. I wasn't in the picture. Because I had taken it. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. I was always there, I whispered to the empty apartment. I just didn't count. That afternoon, I found a real estate attorney through a co-worker's referral. I didn't overthink the email. I wrote it clean and direct. Timeline. Documents. Attachments. I hit send before doubt could talk me out of it. As the sun dipped low, I reopened the revised deed and scrolled to the final line, all heirs in agreement. Verified. They hadn't even checked. They just assumed I would stay silent like I always had. I leaned back in my chair, exhaustion settling into my bones, not the tiredness of effort, but the fatigue of being invisible for too long. I wasn't forgotten, I said softly. I was removed. And for the first time, I didn't feel scared. I felt ready. I didn't go to my mother's house to fight. That was the lie I told myself as I parked across the street and sat there with the engine running, my hands resting on the steering wheel. The house looked the same as always, cream siding, green shutters, roses trimmed too neatly along the fence. Safe. Respectable. Untouched. Just like the version of the family everyone else saw. I turned off the car and stepped out into the cool afternoon air. My phone buzzed once in my pocket, Hannah again, but I ignored it and walked up the front steps. The door opened before I knocked. Margaret stood there, already smiling. The kind of smile meant for neighbors, not daughters. Ria, she said warmly. You should have called. I did, I replied. You didn't answer. Her smile faltered for half a second, then recovered. Well, come in. The living room smelled like lemon polish and fresh flowers. Everything was staged. Always staged. A vase of white lilies on the coffee table. Family photos arranged just so. None of them included me. I sat down without being invited. I saw the deed, I said calmly. Margaret blinked. The deed? The revised ownership agreement, I continued. The one filed 4 weeks ago. With Jason's name. Without mine. She walked to the kitchen and began pouring tea, her back to me. I don't know why you are getting yourself upset over paperwork. These things are complicated. I wasn't upset, I said. I was erased. She turned slowly, teacups in her hands. That's dramatic. I looked at her then, really looked. The pearls at her neck. The carefully styled hair. The woman who had taught me how to write thank you notes and stand up straight in public, but never how to protect myself at home. Did you forge my signature? I asked. The cups rattled slightly as she set them down. Of course not, she said quickly. That's an ugly word. Then how did my name disappear? She exhaled, as if I were the inconvenience. Jason needed stability. The bank wanted clarity. You live alone. You don't have a family to think about. The words landed clean and sharp. I am your family, I said. She shook her head gently, like correcting a child. You're independent. You always have been. Jason needs us more. So you took from me, I said. Without asking. I assumed you'd understand, she replied. You always do. That was the moment. Not when she admitted it. Not when she justified it. The moment was when she expected my understanding as payment. I stood up. I didn't come here to explain myself, I said. I came to tell you I know. Her face tightened. Know what? That you used my money, my silence, and my trust as resources, I said evenly. And when I became inconvenient, you rewrote the story. Her voice sharpened. You're being ungrateful. I smiled faintly. No. I'm being accurate. She crossed her arms. You always think you're smarter than everyone else. No, I replied. I just stopped pretending you didn't know what you were doing. There was a knock at the door. Before either of us could move, Jason walked in, keys jangling, confidence dripping from his posture. What's going on? He asked, eyes flicking between us. Margaret straightened. Your sister is upset about the house. Jason scoffed. Seriously? That again? I turned to him. You knew. He shrugged. It made sense. You weren't using it. I was paying for it. That's different, he said easily. I laughed then, once, quietly. No? That's exactly the same. He rolled his eyes. You're always making things bigger than they are. I picked up my phone and opened the document folder. I turned the screen toward him. Bank transfers. Mortgage statements. Dates. Amounts. His face changed. Margaret stepped forward. Ria, put that away. There's no need to be ugly. I'm not being ugly, I said. I'm being done. The room fell silent. I've spoken to an attorney, I continued. You'll be hearing from them. Margaret's breath hitched. You wouldn't. I already did. Jason's confidence cracked. You're actually going to sue your own family. I met his eyes. I'm protecting myself. You taught me how. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Margaret's voice turned cold. If you do this, don't expect things to be the same. I nodded. I don't. I walked to the door without another word. As I stepped outside, the air felt lighter. Like I'd been holding my breath for years and only just exhaled. I didn't cry in the car. I didn't scream. I simply sat there, hands steady, and realized something important. I had stopped asking for permission to exist. And they felt it. The first legal envelope arrived on a Thursday. I remember because Thursdays used to be my lightest days, no meetings after 3, grocery shopping on the way home, something warm for dinner. Normal things. Predictable things. The envelope was thick. Cream-colored. My name printed cleanly on the front. I didn't rush to open it. I set it on the kitchen counter, poured myself a glass of water, and stood there breathing until my hands felt steady. When I finally tore it open, there was no fear. Just confirmation. The attorney had moved fast. Fraud allegation filed. Property ownership dispute initiated. Temporary freeze requested on refinancing or sale. Clear. Professional. Unemotional. Exactly how the truth should be handled. By Saturday, the ripple reached the family. It always did. Lena was the first to call. I watched her name flash across my screen 3 times before answering. What did you do? She demanded, skipping hello. I told the truth, I replied calmly. You're blowing this out of proportion, she snapped. Mom's been crying nonstop. Uncle Victor is furious. That's interesting, I said. Because no one cried when my name disappeared. She scoffed. Why are you doing this publicly? I didn't, I said. Lawyers aren't public. Gossip is. Silence. Then softer, manipulative. You know how this looks, right? People are talking. I smiled faintly. They always were. I just wasn't invited to the conversation. She hung up. On Monday, Uncle Victor left a voicemail. His voice was measured, disappointed, heavy with authority. Family matters should be handled internally, Ria. You've embarrassed your mother. Think carefully about what you're risking. I deleted it without responding. By Wednesday, Mrs. Eleanor, Margaret's longtime friend and the unofficial social coordinator of their entire circle, sent me a carefully worded email. I hope this is all a misunderstanding. Margaret has always spoken so proudly of you. I didn't reply. Pride, I'd learned, was not the same as respect. At work, nothing changed. No whispers. No sideways glances. My world there had always been built on effort, not lineage. That difference mattered now more than ever. Thursday evening, Hannah came over with takeout and concern etched all over her face. They are scrambling, she said, dropping onto the couch. Your mom cancelled the charity luncheon. Said she's taking time away from public engagements. I raised an eyebrow. Really? She hates losing control of the narrative, Hannah added. This shook it. I stared at my food, appetite gone. I didn't want revenge. I know, Hannah said gently. But accountability feels like punishment to people who've never had it. That night, another envelope arrived. This one wasn't legal. It was personal. Margaret's handwriting. I didn't open it right away. I placed it beside the first letter and went to bed. In the morning, sunlight spilled across the kitchen table, illuminating both envelopes side by side, truth and emotion, finally equal in weight. I opened hers. Ria, I don't recognize you anymore. This family gave you everything. I hope you're proud of what you're doing. No apology. No denial. No acknowledgement of harm. Just disappointment, weaponized. I folded the letter neatly and placed it back in the envelope. Then I did something I'd never done before. I didn't respond. By the end of the week, the consequences became visible. The bank requested additional verification. Jason's refinancing stalled. The motorcycle photos disappeared from social media. And then, quietly, a post went up from Margaret's account. Some matters are being resolved privately. Please respect our family's boundaries. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Boundaries. The irony was almost poetic. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You've gone too far. I blocked it. Another message followed, this time from Jason. We can fix this if you drop the case. I typed once. Then erased it. Typed again. Erased. Finally, I sent 3 words. Talk to my lawyer. And just like that, the power shifted. No more emotional negotiations. No more guilt disguised as love. No more silence mistaken for consent. I stood at my window that evening, watching the city lights flicker on one by one. Somewhere, my family was scrambling to preserve an image. Somewhere else, people were learning that I would no longer disappear to make others comfortable. I wasn't loud. I wasn't cruel. I was simply visible. And for them, that was the most dangerous thing of all. The pressure didn't come all at once. It seeped in slowly, like water finding cracks in a foundation everyone had pretended was solid. Court deadlines were set. Requests for documents went out. And with each formal letter, the family's confidence thinned. The first real fracture came from a place I hadn't expected. Mrs. Eleanor. She called on a Tuesday afternoon while I was reviewing notes from my attorney. Her name lit up my phone like a ghost from another life. "I don't have much time," she said without pleasantries. "And I'm only calling because I believe in doing the right thing before it's too late." I said nothing. "I was there," she continued, "the day Margaret went to the county office." My grip tightened. "There?" "Yes." "She asked me to drive her. Said she needed support. She was nervous." I closed my eyes. "She had paperwork already prepared," Mrs. Eleanor said quietly. She told the clerk it was a simple update. That her daughter had agreed, but was traveling. "And the signature?" I asked. A pause. "She practiced it," Mrs. Eleanor admitted. "In the car. Over and over." The room felt suddenly too small. "I told myself it wasn't my place," she continued, her voice cracking. "But when the attorney letters came, I couldn't sleep." "Why are you telling me now?" I asked. "Because the truth doesn't disappear just because we ignore it," she said. "And because I'm willing to sign a statement." I exhaled slowly, carefully. "Thank you," I said. After the call ended, I sat there for a long time, staring at nothing. I had prepared myself for betrayal. I hadn't prepared for confirmation. When I forwarded the information to my attorney, the response came back within minutes. "This changes everything." By Friday, the tone shifted. Jason's lawyer requested a delay. Margaret's counsel stopped posturing and started asking questions. And then, unexpectedly, Lena showed up at my apartment. I hadn't given her the address. She stood in the hallway, arms folded, eyes rimmed red, not angry this time. "Tired?" "I didn't know," she said, before I could speak. I leaned against the doorframe. "That's what you all keep saying." She winced. "I mean, I knew Mom handled things. I didn't know she'd forge it." I studied her face, searching for performance. Finding something closer to fear. "They are panicking," she admitted. "Uncle Victor says this could turn criminal." I nodded. "It already is." Her shoulders sagged. "Jason pushed her. He kept saying you wouldn't fight. That you never do." The words didn't hurt like they once would have. "They used my predictability," I said. "That was the mistake." Lena swallowed. "What do you want?" It was a simple question. And for once, an honest one. "I want the truth on record," I replied. "And my name restored." She nodded slowly. "If I testify, Mom will never forgive me." I met her eyes. She already chose who to protect. Lena left without another word. 2 days later, my attorney called. "Mrs. Eleanor's affidavit is signed," he said. "And Lena has agreed to cooperate." I closed my eyes. The weight shifted. The hearing was set for the following week. Margaret didn't call. Jason didn't text. Silence returned, but this time, it wasn't a weapon. It was retreat. On the morning of the hearing, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, adjusting my blazer. I didn't look like someone going to war. I looked like myself. Calm. Prepared. Finished with pretending. In the courthouse hallway, I saw Margaret for the first time in weeks. She looked smaller. Not frail, just diminished. The confidence that once carried her through rooms had evaporated. Our eyes met. For a moment, I thought she might say my name. She didn't. The doors opened. Inside, truth stopped being emotional and started being factual. Dates. Signatures. Witnesses. When Mrs. Eleanor's statement was read aloud, Margaret's lawyer closed his folder slowly. When Lena was called, Jason's face drained of color. And when the judge looked up and said, "There appears to be sufficient evidence of intentional misrepresentation," something inside me finally settled. They had buried the truth under politeness, under family, under my silence. But truth has a way of breathing when given even the smallest space. As we left the courtroom, Hannah squeezed my hand. "You okay?" she whispered. I nodded. "I'm not winning," I said quietly. "I'm ending something." Outside, the sun felt warmer than it should have. And for the first time since my birthday, I smiled without effort. The judgment didn't come with drama. No shouting. No gasps. No cinematic pause. It came in a calm, steady voice that read facts the way facts prefer to be read, without emotion, without apology. The judge ruled that the revised deed was invalid. My name was to be restored as legal co-owner. All refinancing efforts were permanently frozen without my consent. And then came the part no one had prepared for. The court referred the matter for further review regarding forgery and misrepresentation. Margaret didn't look at me. Jason stared at the floor. I felt nothing. No triumph. No relief. Just an odd sense of completion, like finishing a book you'd been reading for years and finally closing the cover. Outside the courthouse, reporters weren't waiting. This wasn't news. It was consequence. Hannah hugged me tight. "You did it." "No," I said softly. "I finished it." Margaret left quickly, her heels clicking too fast against the pavement. Jason followed, phone pressed to his ear, already looking for someone else to blame. Lena lingered. She stood a few steps away, unsure, like someone approaching a stranger they used to know well. "I'm sorry," she said. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. But it was real. "I know," I replied. She nodded, eyes glossy. "I don't know what happens now." "That's the honest part," I said. "None of us do." She walked away, shoulders slumped, leaving behind a space that felt quieter, not emptier. Just clear. In the weeks that followed, the family fractured in predictable ways. Uncle Victor stopped calling. Margaret withdrew from public life entirely. Jason sold the motorcycle. The house remained untouched. Frozen in time and ownership. No celebration. No victory lap. Just stillness. I didn't move back in. I didn't want to reclaim a place that had never protected me. Instead, I refinanced my own apartment, alone this time. No shared accounts. No blurred boundaries. I changed my emergency contact. That choice felt heavier than the court ruling. One afternoon, I received a small package in the mail. Inside was the pale blue silk scarf. Folded carefully. No note. I stared at it for a long time before placing it in a drawer and closing it without ceremony. Some things don't need meaning anymore. Mrs. Eleanor sent one final message. "I hope one day you'll understand why I waited." I didn't reply. Understanding doesn't require agreement. Months passed. My birthday came again. This time, I didn't plan anything big. Just dinner with friends who showed up without reminders. Without guilt. Without conditions. When the candles were lit, Hannah raised her glass. "To Ria," she said. "For choosing herself." I smiled, genuinely. Later that night, alone in my apartment, I stood by the window and watched the city breathe, cars moving, lights blinking, people living lives that didn't require my explanation. I thought about everything I'd lost. The version of my mother I thought existed. The illusion of unconditional family. The comfort of silence. And then I thought about what I'd kept. My name. My voice. My future. They said I broke the family. But families that shatter under truth were already broken. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't take revenge. I didn't become cruel. I became present. And that was enough. Because the hardest thing I ever did wasn't taking them to court. It was believing, finally, that I deserved to be on my own side.